Hey guys, okay, so it is 7 o'clock my time.
Every day
this
I
is
give
super
people
late
hugs.
for me to go live. What?
Every day at the beginning of the day, I give people hugs to spread the joy.
What? You want to say hi?
Hi, Facebook Live. I'm really tall. Like
He's on
I grew over the summer.
He grew. He's like 5'5" now.
Yeah.
He's way tall. Just kidding. He's on his hoverboard. So.
Oh, can I tell them my mission for the school year?
Sure. What's your mission?
My mission for the school year is mission 1. Spread the joy. I'm trying to make everybody happy.
That's awesome. That's fantastic, Dylan.
Yes.
So, but how are you making people happy?
By giving jokes to make them laugh and giving them hugs and handshakes and being polite.
Being polite. Good job, Dylan. Well done. Well done. Well done. So
I have to go outside and do that tea party?
Yes, go outside and do. I told him he has to go like get exercise. So he's on his hoverboard with lemonade. So he was joking that he's having a tea party outside by himself. Whatevs. Go have your
stuffed animals.
What?
I'm just put them up
Weird.
in little chairs.
Go. This is my live. If you want to live, you can go on live later. Go. Shoo. Go. Hey guys. Okay, so my name is Nikki. If you've never been on here before with me, welcome. I am a bit scatterbrained when it comes to my lives, and I don't typically stay on topic. And it doesn't help when my kid is going back and forth on the hoverboard, giving you guys thumbs up. But I thought that I would come on here because I feel like, I haven't talked about. Would you go away? I haven't talked about.
Spread the joy.
You're such a nerd. I have enough joy. I don't need you dancing in the background. Oh, maybe I do. That's pretty funny.
For the audience, have to spread the joy.
If you're joining me live, if you could just type live down below, that would be fantastic. If you join me on the replay, type replay, and I'll say hi later. So what up, Jordan? Hey, Rachel. Rachel's my sister's name, but she doesn't spell it like that. Hey, Benny. Hey, Audra. Okay, so I am going to bring you back to 2005. I was, 3 years out of college. You were not born. I was 3 years out of college, and I was working at National Guard Bureau. I had just moved to D.C. By myself at, what is that, like 26? Yeah, I was born in 79. Geez, I thought I was younger than that. Oh, no, I moved out at 25. That's right.
Man, everybody thinks they're younger.
Anyway, so it was less than a year after I moved out there, and I started having numbness. Dylan, seriously, stop. Otherwise, this live is going to be like an hour. So I started having numbness and tingling in my arms. And actually, it was like I typed a lot, right? So I worked for the Bureau. So I did a lot of typing, and all of a sudden I kind of lost my dexterity, and I thought it was really strange. I was a little frightened, just a little bit, but I wasn't as frightened until I lost the dexterity in the other hand too. So then I went to the neurologist, and they wanted to do an MRI. So I did an MRI, and then, do you even know what an MRI is? I've had like a bazillion of them.
Yeah, you've had like 12.
Oh, by the way, if you get MRIs a lot, you should not get gadolinium every time, because that crosses the blood-brain barrier and it actually just like coagulates. There's nowhere for it to go. So if you get MRIs twice a year or even every year, don't say yes to the gadolinium, which is another word for contrast. Just say no.
I don't even know both of those words.
If you're having an attack, you know you're having an attack. You don't need somebody to tell you that you have active lesions. This is what I've learned in 15 years. I wish somebody would have told me that a long time ago.
What I thought you were like a smart genius.
I am a smart genius.
Says who?
Says me. Hi, Floyd. Hi, Melanie. So anyway, and then I got a spinal tap, and that showed the proteins that are only found with MS, right? So that's how I was diagnosed, and I immediately got on steroids. Solumedrol is a IV steroid And actually, IV steroids are basically the only thing that kind of works for me. I've tried the oral, it doesn't work. So that was 2005. I had this guy in 2009.
Hey guys, how's the baby?
Hang on. And I actually didn't have any attacks for 4 years. So until I had him. And actually, when you're pregnant, most people stop having attacks. Like when they're pregnant, they think it has to do with the hormones. What is so funny about hormones? That's like sexist. There's a street called Sussex, and because it has sex in it, he thinks it's funny. Like such a weird age. So anyway, okay, stop, seriously. So then I had my second attack in 2012. So he was born in February of 9, and I started having I was training for a marathon. I was a huge runner. So I actually found out, my friend Amy and I were so distraught because his dad was actually in Canada with my dad. So no, he wasn't around at the time.
You told me that.
Yeah. So I had to tell somebody, and Amy was my best friend at the time. And we were so distraught when I got diagnosed. I wanted to die. I was so scared. And so Amy's like, let's go for a run. And we literally ran 10 miles that night. I'll never forget it. And I was crying. I was running and crying, and we were running and crying, and we would stop and we would hug. And that was in DC. But anyway, so 2000, so he was 10 months old, and I was still breastfeeding, and I started having an attack of my legs. I was actually out, and I was on I want to say it was an 18-miler. It was pretty close to when my marathon was. So it was towards the end where you're kind of getting the highest mileage before you kind of taper off. And I was out in the middle of nowhere, cow country, and I couldn't, all of a sudden I lost the muscle gait when I'm running. And so I literally I wanted to run, but my brain, I all of a sudden I couldn't do it. And so that happened in 2009. And this is something that a lot of people don't tell you. So if you have friends that were diagnosed or are, have MS, it's really good to let them know. It might be too late, like it was for me. Nobody told me. But so when you have an attack, you should not wait. So there's kind of a window, because what's going on, the immune system attacks the myelin. So the myelin is the fatty substance that covers the nerve fibers in your brain and your spinal cord. So think of it it protects your nerves. So it's like the plastic wrap around your cell phone charger. It's that wrap, okay? So that's the myelin. It's supposed to, when it's messed up, then the nerves can't send messages back and forth the way they're supposed to. What is so funny? What?
1, 2, 3, 4.
He's doing girly dances. Dylan, I can't right now. So without the protective covering, the nerves can get damaged. So anyway, when you have an attack, you have about a 14-day window, and you'll know if you're having an attack, all right? So a lot of people, their eyes are affected. They have optic neuritis, or they might get vertigo, really bad. Dylan, stop. I can't think when you're screwing off over there. They might get vertigo really bad. You could also lose the dexterity, in your hands. You could get, I've never had, the tingling, but a lot of people get the tingling in their legs or the arms. Just something's off, right? Something's off. I wouldn't necessarily call the MS hug an attack. That just comes and goes, and that's just kind of something you have to deal with. And what that is, it's right around your rib cage. And it'll just get really tight. And actually what I've found is when I apply CBD lotion to my rib cages, to my rib cage, it'll go away. So that's something that I didn't have 15 years ago. So I just kind of hung in there. let's see what else. So right when you start feeling that is when you need to go to the emergency room or the urgent care, or, well, with the VA, I just go to the emergency room, and I'm like, okay, I'm having an attack. And then they always say, well, we're going to do an MRI with contrast. And then because you know better now, because I just taught you, you're going to say, actually, I just had an MRI with contrast and I'm not interested. Now, if you're newly diagnosed, fine. Like, you might get a massive headache. Some people get massive headaches with that gadolinium. I just don't think you need it. Here's the thing. You've got a 14-day window, okay? You've got a 14-day window to knock that, like, in the butt, to get rid of that inflammation before it permanently damages your nerves, okay? Nobody ever told me that. So my second attack, I was breastfeeding Dylan, and I was like, hell no, I'm not going to stop before the 12 months. Like, I was dead set on breastfeeding for 12 months, yo. And so I messed around, right? So like I couldn't really walk. My legs, like that was the first time my legs were affected. And I honestly do think, because there's no proof to any of this, right? Like nobody knows what causes it, blah, 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 right? So like, do you think that it's just random that now every single time I have an attack, it has to do with my legs? No, it's because I totally wrecked. I ruined those nerves. I destroyed that myelin sheath. Is not there wherever it is in my spinal cord or my brain. So, but there's just no way. There was no way you were going to put steroids in my body. So, it was like a day before Christmas, and I actually went in and got my 5 days of Solu-Medrol. So that was my second. And so what I will say, since day one, I was completely for the alternative method of treating this, because if you don't have a cure, I don't want your drugs. Like, that's just how I am. But that's me. So I tried the interferons, and it made me feel like a sick person, and I'm kind of a hypochondriac a little bit. Anybody that knows me knows that, like, I mean, I thought at one point, Dylan, remember when I thought I had like head lice, and like, remember when we got back from that guy's house? I was like, I have bed bugs, I have head lice, like, so I'm a little bit of hypochondriac. So when I was giving myself shots, I felt sorry for myself. There was bruises everywhere. You can only give yourself shots on, it does look like I gave myself a shot, that's just a bruise. But like you can only give it in your tricep, you can give it in your butt, you can give it in like the fatty part above your butt, and then you can give it in your thigh. Oh, no. The fatty part above your butt, your stomach. Could you imagine giving yourself a shot in your stomach? Like, and then your tricep hurts like heck. And then your leg, I mean, your leg was the easiest, because let's just be honest, my thighs aren't the skinniest. But so I couldn't do it. So that's when I started looking up alternative treatments for MS. So that was in 2005. That's when I found victoryoverms.com. Francis Connell, which he's still doing fine. Super healthy. And so that's when I got on. So I'm going to start giving you all the things that I've done. I'm going to tell you, since 2011, actually I didn't have an attack in 11. I had one in 12. And then that's when, his dad left us. And so all the attacks started. So stress is super, super terrible. I'll tell you the things that are terrible for MS. You cannot be stressed, and like stuff happens, right? Like, and so I'm also going to tell you like what you can do about it, because life happens, right? I feel like I should have like had some notes. Ooh. But I'll read your comments. So if you're like, oh, Nikki, you forgot it, like whatever, like just tell me down below. Because this is like a 15-year story, okay? So attack basically every year. I actually found in 2005, I found glyconutrients. So glyconutrients, and I've got this big pack I actually found when I moved here. It's a study, probably from Israel, because that's where all the geniuses are. It's a study talking about glyconutrients and what it's doing in your body, that, it's in breast milk. You cannot get it in food anymore. And so I was big on Manatech. So Manatech is still a company out there, and they still have ambertose, which is actually a sugar. So they're glyconutrients. And I actually took it when I was pregnant with Dylan. And of course it's not FDA FDA approved. I didn't care. You could shove that up your butt. Like, I already researched it. I read a book about glyconutrients. I know what it's doing. I know. And lo and behold, Dylan was like the healthiest baby, and he was super smart, and he still is. He's sitting right there listening to me. But glyconutrients. So that's where I started. Yes, it's still around. I've done so many things in the period of 15 years. I'm going to give you a lot of ideas. I can't afford to do all of them all the time. I'm just going to be honest with you. So glyconutrients is one thing, and you can look it up as Manatech. Another thing that, I was popular. Dylan, turn that down or go outside. Another thing that was very popular around 2006, maybe 7, was CCSVI. So CCSVI was a doctor, and he actually wasn't a neurologist, and he actually ended up helping a lot of people. So of course the government shut him down and said he could no longer treat MS patients. So what that was they found, Dr. Zambrodi found that there was a reduction in blood flow, so like a narrowing of major veins that draw blood from your brain and your spinal cord. It showed that MS patients, they had a narrowing of the vein right here, okay? So a narrowing, and I can't remember if it was the carotid. I feel like it was the carotid. And so what he would do is he would go in and put a stent in to open it up to allow that blood to flow from your brain and spinal cord, because as you know, this is a degenerative disease of the CNS, right? Central nervous system. And so that was actually, a lot of my friends were doing it. Giselle did it. Shout out to Giselle. So that was one thing that was, and you can't get it anymore. Again, the government shut it down. And I'm going to go over like some things that kind of are no longer available because either these people were killed by the government, but you can still use what they found when they actually cured themselves of MS. Vitamin D from the beginning in 2005, nobody was talking about it, but here's what I did during my research. I found, and you can go online and find it too, that the majority of people with MS live in cold climates. The further away from the equator, the higher amount of people are diagnosed. Canada has the #1 most people with MS. It's cold there. Wisconsin and Iowa is so high. So I thought to myself, if it has to do with the sun and I'm not getting the sun, maybe I should take vitamin D. Here's the thing, like what they think is if you lived there before puberty, that you have a higher risk of getting MS. Well, clearly I grew up in Iowa, but I was in Virginia at the time of researching it, and I thought to myself, well, it can't hurt, right? So fast forward 15 years later, and now that is the one thing that neurologists will tell you, that you need to take a great amount of vitamin D. So I take about 10,000 IUs. Now there's doctors out there actually doing massive amounts of vitamin D. So we're talking 100,000 IUs a day. I do have friends from Canada that are following that protocol. I am in a Facebook group about it. The doctor's in there and he's talking about it. I haven't dove into that yet. I feel like I'm dodging a lot of things. They also have connected the herpes family to MS as well. So viruses, you have a higher risk of MS. Yeah, so I'm playing around with a lot of things, like I always am, right? LDN, what is low dose naltrexone. Now, if you look up naltrexone, it was FDA recommended. The FDA did all the studies for naltrexone. It's for heroin addicts. So when low dose naltrexone was brought to them, they're like, we already put our money into this. Thank you. No, thank you. So they never did the studies for LDN. However, I will tell you that when I was on LDN, I had 0 attacks. So that is something I also did from 2005 to 2009 that I stopped doing, which is stupid. I should have Martha prescribe me LDN. So I was actually taking 3.5 milligrams, and I think I was up to 4 milligrams, but 4 milligrams is the max. And it's kind of like cannabis. Like you have to adjust the amount of LDN that you're taking based on most people, based on how they're sleeping, you might have really vivid dreams. And if you have super vivid dreams, you know that you're at kind of a level that's too high. So again, you have to listen to your body. Here's the one blessing about MS. The blessing about it is absolutely 1,000% a disease that makes you pay attention to what you are doing in your body. Most people, I joke about it like, oh, I wish I could eat that, or I wish I could, drink or I wish I could have wine every night, but do I? Do I really? I mean, it's kind of really cool that you can tell. So anyway, so just like cannabis, you have to listen to your body. So that's LDN. So if you want to go online, just type in LDN. And I think it was like LDN.com. I don't know if it's been shut down at this point, but you can look into that. Candida Cure. That was a doctor, I don't think she was Canadian. I think she was US, but she was killed. She was a doctor that wrote a book, and I talked to you guys about it years ago when I was reading it, and I was on this kick of taking an antifungal every day. The medicine costs like $5 a month. So of course, once the government got onto her and onto she's preaching to everyone, that's what scares me about this other lady I'm about to tell you about, because I don't want her to die too. But so anyway, she wrote a book, and what she proved was that if you were on a antifungal, just a small pill a day, diflucan, I think is what I was taking. I don't know. It was I think it was diflucan. I still have the book. Or I think I gave it to somebody. Who did I give that to? I gave that to somebody in Iowa. I'm gonna have to think about that. Oh, Nikki. I think I gave it to you, Nikki. But anyway, Candida. So all that is sugar, you guys. So what she found, and this is kind of where everybody is starting to talk about the same thing. So this was around 2000 and let's see, he was born in 9. I would say about 2010, 11. What she showed is that our guts are not like other people's guts. And actually, sugar plays a huge role in the guts of MS patients. And actually the enzyme in the gut, and I had to write this down because I had to ask Dr. Niles. He's like, where are you going with that? I was like, duh, because I want to sound smart on Facebook Live. I was like, shh, don't tell me. I know I'm smart. He thinks I'm funny. Okay. So the enzyme in the gut of, MS patients that's of concern is called GDP-L fructose synthase. It's an enzyme naturally produced in human cells, and it's found in bacteria in the intestines of all MS patients. These enzymes are believed to cause the T and B cells to go after the myelin. So it kind of all makes sense, okay? So if your body is producing, and you have different bacteria in your gut, and we're going to talk about fecal transplant in a second, because that's another thing I did. And I will continue to do until Lou says I'm not invited, which he'll never say because I'm just far too charming. Just kidding. I'm a real pain in his butt. But anyway, so what she was saying is avoid the sugar, okay? So fast forward 2 years, I met Pam Bartha. Pam Bartha is a Canadian that she also cured, and I know I'm not supposed to say cured, but whatevs. Are they going to listen to this live? It's forever live, of MS with food, okay? So then I was like, wait a second, I'm from Iowa. I've heard of Terry Walls. Maybe I should look into her stuff. Everybody's talking the same stuff, you guys. That's what Terry's talking about as well. And then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Matt Embry from Canada, and everybody's connected, you guys. Once you get in this world, you'll start realizing that everyone doing well that's been diagnosed, we watch what we eat. We limit our sugar. We're the weirdos of the world, that not because we want to, but because we have to. I don't, just take, dirt for the heck of it, right? I literally have consumed diatomaceous earth. If you don't know what that is, it's dirt. I literally would drink dirt for years. That's when I first moved to Iowa. I was into kefir, fermented foods. I made my own kombucha. I drink bone broth every day. I'm like this because I have to be, because everybody that's doing well pays attention to this. Like, we can't live like everyone else. And so I will say, you know, Pam Bartha, if you look up her program, she charges kind of a hefty amount. And I paid, I think it was like $3,000, basically just to be nosy. I just wanted to be nosy. I wanted to see what she was teaching. I didn't do what she told me to do because it's very strict. And Terry Walls is very strict as well. And I have so many friends that are like able to eat like that every day. And there's a switch in my head that I just can't force myself to do it. And I know that I would feel better if I did. But I feel like I'm doing pretty dang well because I did fecal transplant. And I know like a lot of people are going to like turn it off now because that's gross. It's talking about poop, but everybody poops. If you haven't read that book, you should read it. And so the whole concept of fecal transplant is we have certain bacteria. I just told you what enzyme. We have more cytokines in our intestines, which is it's the inflammatory. I think it's a protein that's released. We have more than that. So if you transfer poo from a healthy donor that, you know, is all organic, doesn't have any viruses, doesn't eat meat, or if so, it's very little, that gut flora is now going to be yours. And so the transfer, you know, you're not going to find a doctor to do it. You just won't. They used to do it until they found out that it was actually helping patients. And so like the CCSVI, like the cannabis of the world, you know that people take cannabis. In the UK, that's what they do for MS. It's 50-50. It's 50% THC. It's 50% CBD. And that takes care of it. Now, granted, I'll talk about CBD and what you can do for it right now, but that helps. Like, are you kidding me? So, I mean, there's things that, you know, where was I going with that? Medicine. Fecal transplant. What was I even talking about? Anyway, so I did that for 10 days. And I'll probably do it for another, I think I'm going in December with Nikki. We'll probably do 10 days again or 5 days. We do have test groups. Like he's running his, like, I won't talk too much about because I don't want to get in trouble. But you know, the thing is, the more you talk about this and the more that you find people that have been through it and find what's working for them, clearly it's like in business, right? You're not going to take business recommendations from somebody that's, you know, makes less money than you. You're going to go to people that are making the big bucks and can talk the talk to you, right? Same thing with health, you guys. You're not going to go to somebody that's doing poorly with their health to get advice. So you go to the people that are doing well and see what everyone is doing. And I'm telling you guys, everybody is doing the food. You gotta watch. Alcohol will kill you. You know how bad when JD and I went out the other night, oh my, like it literally destroyed me. Of course, like I'm super hard-headed and like I don't show people that, you know, I'm like hurting. I may have told him I was hurting, but I don't think he knew the extent. Alcohol will crush you. Why? It's all sugar. It's all sugar. Anything, you know, sweets. This is why I fast once a month. Is there proof behind, you know, fasting in MS? No, there's not. But the whole proof of why, you know, it gets rid of leaky gut and why it helps IBS is the seal and heal, yo. You seal it by not eating and it will heal itself. Our body wants to be healthy. Our body wants to be free of any disease, okay? So that is why I fast, to get rid of the sugar and do a reset, because I am human and I'm kind of dumb when it comes to, well, I'm not dumb, but like, I just can't be strict like some of my other friends. Like, I mean, I just watched, I've got another friend that's actually beating cancer right now, but she's got like 6 autoimmune diseases, and she's like Walls Protocol. Like she's the admin for Terry Walls in the Walls Protocol group that I'm in. Like that's how like on track she is. Like we always joke, I'm like, and when I was in Iowa, I'm like, why can't you just come to my house and be my chef? So I have friends that like do it to a T, but then there's people like me. And at least I know better, okay? Sugar will debilitate you. You will not want to walk. Here's what it does to us. Here's what it does. It makes our legs feel like they weigh 100 pounds apiece. Now, clearly, if that's happening to you, mess around with it, just like any of these other things, right? Like, pay attention to your body. Give up something that you know is your addiction. Say you have a really crappy diet. Start with one thing, okay? Eliminate that for a week and see how your legs feel. Like, it's that simple. Now, if you're doing fantastic and you're really early on in your, diagnosis, you can start. I didn't know this stuff in 2005. And I think that's why people are doing so much better these days. I never see people. I know one friend in a wheelchair, one with secondary progressive. Everyone else, and I don't, like attracts like, maybe that's it. I just don't see the people in the wheelchairs anymore, which is fantastic. And I think it's because people like Matt. Okay, so if you haven't watched Living Proof, Matt Embry in Canada, and actually he interviews Terry Walls. So Terry Walls, when she was diagnosed, the doctor in Iowa was secondary progressive. She went to Matt's dad in Canada for advice. So everybody's related, you guys. So she's on the documentary. But Matt is that's why it's called Living Proof. It's a little depressing at the beginning. I'm not going to lie. Shout out to Matt Wietrick in Iowa for being like, Nikki, you need to turn it back on and keep watching it, because I get a little I get a little uncomfortable when I see I don't want fear, all right? I don't even need to put fear in my head, in this pretty little head. I don't even want fear, right? So the beginning shows, people that aren't doing so well. And I don't like seeing that. But I will say that everything I'm talking about right now is in the documentary. So fantastic that he had enough money to go and, interview all of these people. And actually the lady in her 70s or 80s, she wrote the first book ever about, I feel like I'm yelling at you. Sorry. I don't use my hands. She wrote the first book ever years and years and years ago about how food is so important. Low sugar diets for MS. So that was kind of cool. He interviewed her. He started crying. And she's like, what do you want me to look like at 70? Because she was using a walker or cane or something. I think she had a cane. She's like, this isn't depressed. I'm 70. Whatever. So I would highly recommend watching that. So cannabis. Let's talk about cannabis. So essentially... Hi, Joan. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Tristan. Hi, Brian. Hey, Tanya. After talking about food is the most important, I will say that I was introduced to CBD in 2014, I think. It was when I first moved to Iowa. I actually was driving down to my hometown because that was the only place that offered it or that had it. The only other place was Charlotte's Web online, and I wanted to go to my hometown because they were very hippy dippy there, and I don't know, they're all very Ayurvedic, very into the herbs, and I just trusted them. Okay, so that's when I started, and immediately, here's what I've noticed. It was almost immediately. The kind of old person syndrome is what I call it. How people are oh, the older you get, the more stiff you are. Well, okay. So I was 36 and I felt like I was 90 getting out of bed, hunched over, walking to the bathroom. Those first 25 steps, and that's gonna knock your spirits, okay? Are you kidding me? That started to kind of depress me. And I will give a shout out, not that he's watching, but a shout out to Sean, because Sean was actually there for me in Iowa during the worst health time that I've had, ever. I was the sickest. My last year in Virginia during the divorce, and I brought it to Iowa, I was a massive wreck. So that is actually when I was introduced to cannabis, CBD, cannabidiol, however you want to say it. And what I noticed is I didn't have that stiffness. And so I think it was at that time I actually Googled like cannabis and MS, and I was like, holy hell, like there's tons of stuff out there. Like Israel, I remember Terry, my friend in Virginia, her ex-husband has secondary progressive. He's the one that I said I know in a wheelchair. And I remember her sending me a study, and it's already been proven in another country that it'll stop the progression. It stops the progression. What a bunch of jerk-offs in the US. Like, how dare they? So when I started reading more into that, I was like, wait a second. Stops the progression. And I mean, obviously, you know, cannabis isn't legal in every state. So of course in my head, I'm like, I've got to move to Colorado. Like, I've got to move to a state that it's legal. But again, everything I do it for Dylan. And I can't move to a state with no family. I mean, I couldn't do it. So CBD is where I started, and I noticed that was gone. I also noticed that during the divorce, I was diagnosed with IBS, which again goes back to the gut, right? Which is now gone. I have 0 allergies and 0 effects to it after that fecal transplant. But I will say that before I found Lou, this actually made the bloating significantly less. I don't have depression. I don't have anxiety. A lot of people with MS deal with that because it's like a tough blow, right? Especially if you're not tight with the Father above, right? Like it's a pretty, you know, like if you don't believe that there's a higher person that has a better plan and that this is everything's for his glory, not ours. But if you don't believe that, then it's very hard to have joy when you're suffering. If you don't believe that just because we're Christians, it doesn't guarantee we're not going to suffer. And I know that, but you know, if you're not a Christian. So it alleviates that, I noticed. I actually, what else has it done? Oh, spasticity of my legs. Again, when I was in Iowa, that was my sickest time, and I had a lot of spasticity, which basically means like, you probably couldn't tell when I was walking, but I could feel it. I felt clumsy, right? Like spasticity is kind of like you're like kind of walking, but it's like not smooth. It's like not smooth, right? It's like, and again, I don't think anyone can tell, but like we can tell, we can feel it. So it takes that away as well. So I will say, you know, these are all things that you can try right now. Okay. You can look up Candida Cure, buy her book. You can take, the, antifungal every day, have your doctor. And here's the thing, when it comes to talking to doctors, don't be scared. Just tell them what you want. Just tell them what you want. Like, what are they going to say? Like, oh, I don't know about that. I mean, it is an antifungal. Do you really need that? Yes, doctor, I really need that. You like, just be. One thing you might have an issue with, though, is when I asked for LDN, which is the low dose naltrexone. I did have to find an integrative medicine doctor to prescribe it. But then I was like, my sister can prescribe it. So, I mean, I know a lot of you guys don't have a sister that's a doctor. So that is one thing. And again, you can go online and look under LDN and see if they still have a website. Glyconutrients, Manitech still exists. Food, cannabis, vitamin D, L-lysine, if you have a virus and you need to kill the virus. Ooh, I'll show you something that kills viruses. Oh my gosh. Seriously. This is like hardcore though. Like I would not recommend doing this. Like, oh man. Okay. So it's like kind of, so it's called bioactive carbon minerals. You got to look it up. So if you're dealing, it's fulvic acid, which might mean nothing, but this is all stuff that if you're taking notes, you can look up. Hardcore, dude. There's another thing that I actually follow. I follow so many people. If you got a friend or a family member that wants this information, I could regurgitate or just like share this to your page and tag their name. Because if they're not my friend, they're not going to see it when you tag it. I don't think. But I've got a friend, Terry, that actually, I'm in another group. I'm in so many groups. So she has a product that is a metal detox. And I mean, then we can go into like our fillings and like, root canals and all of that. I'm not going to go into that, but that's a real thing. That's a real thing. Do you know how many amalgam fillings I had? I don't even want to admit it. Do you know how many root canals I have? I don't even want to think about it. One of these days I'm going to go to Mexico and I'll just get it done, right? Like that's a whole nother topic I'm not going to talk about. But so she sells TRS. So I don't, if you've heard of TRS, it's actually quite interesting. And I told her about fulvic acid and she's like, oh girl. And I was like, the detox on that. Like I literally, this was before JD got here too, and I was like, oh, like I can't be doing that to my body. It's a massive detox. So her way is way, way smoother, and there's kids doing it too. So if you want her information, I get you hooked up with her. I just know a lot of people. I'm a good connector. I know a lot of information when it comes to this topic. And so if you are a person that, oh, I hate those like little flying black things. Another thing about this apartment, I like suck up centipedes a lot. And like one time I had the light off. I was watching TV and I was like, did I just see something? I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye. And I was like, I totally saw something, didn't I? And I got up and I turned on the light and I was like, you know how you just like sit there and you're like, where are you? Where are you? And there it was behind the TV and it like goes up on the wall. That's the only like good thing about these things is they go up on the wall. It's like, you idiots, I'm going to suck you up like immediately. Oh, so these little black things, little centipedes, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you guys have seen my outside. It's like beautiful plants, but I think that's like what we get for having beautiful foliage is these nasty bugs coming in through my, I don't even know. I don't even want to think about it. But anyway, so yes, so that's it. That's all I got for you. I hope this was helpful. I hope that, you learned something when it comes to, it's not a death sentence. Big deal. You were diagnosed with MS. I mean, okay, it sucks. Like, but here's another like whole different aspect of it. The power of the cross. You are already healed by the blood of Jesus. So if you want to talk religion with me, I can talk that with you as well. You got to speak it. You got to believe it. You got to own it. Hello? You're fine. I'm sorry you were diagnosed. It will be totally fine unless you freak out and continue to stress yourself out and continue to go on WebMD. Don't go on WebMD. All right? All right. So if you want some CBD oil, I will drop the link below because it's about all I can offer you. I can't offer you weed. If I could offer you weed, I'd offer you weed, but I can't. I can't offer you LDN because I don't sell it. I can't offer you Manitech because I don't sell it, but these are all things you can look up. All right. Hi, Eileen. I'd love to share it with my friend. Yay. Oh, I'm so happy that you like stuck in there. I like just told like 15 years of stuff. So yeah, share it to your page and then tag him. And then whatever, I'll talk to whoever, you know how I am. I'll talk to anyone. All right. Love you guys.